Good evening. Welcome to the Board of Commissioners public hearing on ordinance number 2095. And may I please have a roll call?
Commissioners DeVoe.
Here.
Spiegelman.
Here.
Sanchez.
Here.
Myers.
Here.
Martin.
Here.
Kalinowski.
Here.
Driver.
Here.
Bowman.
Here.
DiPlacido. Barrett.
Here.
Gillespie.
Here.
Hecker.
Here.
Jones.
Here.
Klein.
Here.
Luker.
Here. Commissioner DiPlacido was excused for the evening. At this time, Commissioner Shriver has an announcement.
Thank you, President Luker. As I am employed by Penn State, I will be abstaining from tonight's vote.
Okay. Thank you. May everyone please stand for our Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, I'll read a brief summary for AG1, or Agenda Item 1. The Board of Commissioners of the Township of Abington will hear a presentation on proposed ordinance number 2095, filed on behalf of Penn State University by the law firm of Eastburn and Gray, P.C. The proposed ordinance would create a new use category, Use H-1.A, student apartment housing. The text amendment proposes to allow use H-1.A as a permitted use within the PB or Planned Business District of the Township of Abington. The proposed zoning text amendment also amends the on-site parking requirements of Section 901.8 of the zoning ordinance. At this time, I'd like to call on Mr. Mark D. Jonas, Esquire, attorney for the applicant.
Good evening. Mark Jonas. I represent Penn State University and Turner Construction. It's nice to be back in front of the Board of Commissioners. Tonight we are proposing an ordinance text amendment, and some of you have attended some of the previous meetings, and we've had several of them.
Mark, could you move the microphone a little closer?
Sure, sorry. So I thought I'd set the stage before we go on with our presenters. What we are proposing is an ordinance text amendment, and as I've noted in the past, this is not a map amendment. We are proposing an amendment to the existing PB zoning district. I wonder if we can get our presentation up. Philly, I'm not the tech guy. You're going to be hearing from several members of the project team. They're listed on the second slide. This is the PB zoning district, and this is an important context, I think, as we talk about the proposed ordinance amendment. We are only talking about student apartments on properties that are zoned PB, and I'll be discussing later, shortly, the additional eligibility requirements in order to do this. But we start with the property that is zoned PB. We're not starting with property that is zoned residential, single-family, twins, or we are talking about PB, which, as you can see from the screens to my left and right, permits a substantial array of commercial and residential uses. Now, I know the township is undergoing a code rewrite, and so one of the questions I'm sure you and your planners are thinking about is whether PB will continue in the future. But for the moment, under the current zoning ordinance and the zoning map, we are proposing student housing subject to other eligibility requirements only on properties that are zoned PB. And as many as you know, this is the former Saturn dealership property. It's on the 611 Spur Road, and as you'll see from the presentation, the proposed student apartments will have no connectivity to any of the abutting properties. We are preserving the perimeter vegetation. We are going to be supplementing that, so this only access will be off the Spur Road of 611. It is between Temple Beth Am to the south and the BBH1 office building to the north. The result of this, compared to the Saturn dealership, will be less impervious, and we will be doubling the amount of green area from 19% to 38%. And you're going to be hearing about other attributes of the presentation, including the sustainability features, which are beyond my pay grade. And we will be preserving and supplementing the perimeter vegetation. Let me talk about the eligibility requirements for student apartments, assuming the property is Zone PB. The site must have a 2-acre minimum. It must be owned and operated by a college or university located within Abington Township. And at the present time, that would involve only or entitle only Penn State University or Manor College to take advantage of this proposed ordinance. The site must be 2 miles from a regional railway station. It must be 2 miles from the main campus of the Township University or college. The use, as you will hear, is transit-oriented. Now, I think it's important to note that this is not the only opportunity to have apartments or apartments that you would rent to students in the PB district. As I noted earlier, the PB, as you can see here, permits a number of uses, and those include an H1 apartment multiplex building or a C15 mixed-use building. So an owner of property with PB could today build apartments depending on the site requirements and the requirements of H1 or C15, and then rent to students if he or she or the entity wish to do that. Our hearing presentation today will identify tax parcels that are theoretically eligible for the student apartments, subject to the 2-acre minimum requirement and a 2-mile radii from the regional railway station or the college or university campus. You will see from the presentation, and you will know, since these are in your wards, that these properties are already developed. And a number of the parcels, you'll hear a number of 31 tax parcels, but that number is a little bit not exactly descriptive, because many of those tax parcels are assemblages of existing properties. For example, a number of those tax parcels are within the Willow Grove Mall. So we're not looking at individual parcels. Those are just a number. So when you look at the number that are eligible, there's a real-world improbability that any of those properties would ever be eligible for student housing. Assume they were owned and operated by either Manor College or Penn State. We've done a lot of work on this, and you will see, and those of you who have seen earlier presentations, from the beginning of the design team, from the folks in State College, and this is one of these applications that has engendered already a good amount of support. It has the support of the Montgomery County Planning Commission. It has the support of the Abington Township Economic Development Committee, a unanimous endorsement noting the economic viability of the project. Last night, we received the endorsement and the favorable recommendation of the Abington Township Planning Commission. The addendum to that was some request that when the township undergoes its code rewrite, that they look at perhaps some of the parameters as you examine the code rewrite in the context of that code rewrite. Keep in mind, again, if PB isn't continued, then this ordinance, as it's presently enacted, would apply only and would end up being probably developed only by this site if you were to approve the ordinance and if land development were to approve later on. We believe you will hear support from representatives of the synagogue to the south. We have a copy of a letter from our neighbors to the east, Presby Inspired Life, supporting the project. We have had meetings with residential and business property owners some months ago, all talking about the project. They all saw various renderings of what you will see tonight. So let me go into just identifying who our presenters will be. Our leadoff hitter will be Chancellor Karen Sandler from Penn State Abington. Then we will have David Oddie from SNP Architects, followed by David Babbitt, planner. Then Craig Bryson from Pannoni. Then Deborah Ferraro from Pannoni talking about traffic. And then finally Todd Poole from Forward Planning, who will talk about the economic study and the fiscal impact. Now, I believe everyone on the board has a copy of that. As I said, the EDC has already seen it and determined that the project was economically viable. So I've asked Todd to sort of condense the presentation, and certainly any of our team members will be available for questions by the board. I'm simply going to introduce them, then I'm going to sit down and go out to dinner. So if that's okay, I will then turn this over to Chancellor Sandler. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes. My name is Karen Wiley Sandler. That's Sandler. Adam Sandler's my cousin, not. And I'm Chancellor of Penn State Abington, and I have actually been the chief executive for Abington since 1994. Just changed titles from time to time. And so I thought I'd start out by telling you just a little bit about Penn State Abington. I know that you know some of this, maybe you know all of this, but I thought it would be helpful to bring it together to give you a context about who we are. So Penn State Abington is one of 24 campuses within the system, Penn State system, 19 of which are undergraduate campuses. And so we are one of 5 of those 19 that were selected in 1997 to be designated a campus college by the university. And that actually has had an impact in terms of providing us more flexibility and more responsiveness to both student needs but also professional needs in the community. We are an undergraduate-only college with a range of majors, mostly liberal arts and sciences, but with a number of pre-professional degrees leading to law, medical, nursing, and veterinary careers. We have education, engineering, business, and information technology. We continue, since the beginning of our campus life, we continue to offer what's called the 2+2 option, which is that most of our students begin here at Penn State Abington, intending to transition to the University Park campus. However, since we became a college and we offer degrees, a lot of those students have decided to stay with us. In prior years, before we had those degrees to offer, they decided to transfer to Temple because they didn't want to leave Philadelphia. That's kind of the nature of who we all are living in the Philadelphia area. Our enrollment is about 4,000, with about 300 of those students who do not take their classes on site. And that would include, for instance, nursing programs. We have a program with Dixon. We also have a program with Aria Health Systems, those are very large programs. Of our students, we have 89, of our entering class normally, we have 89% Pennsylvania residents, about 7% out of state, and about 4% international. And approximately 20% of our student body are adult learners. That differs from year to year. It continues to go up. And veterans. So that's an important number, too. We graduate about 500 students per year, and many of those students have done internships in the area. And so we hope that among those 500 students, there are students who have had their experience working and living in Abington or in the area and want to stay and take jobs here. We also, and just a few little brag points in terms of the quality of the college, we have the Schreier Honors College program, which is the prestigious honors college at Penn State. We are not the only campus now, but I will tell you that we were only the second to receive that program, so that's a kind of a mark of quality. And we have an active internship program. About 600 students per year participate in internships, and later you'll see that many of them do internships in the township. And we have a wonderful spirit of student volunteerism and philanthropy. So again, I'll give you some examples of that in a minute. And we are members of NCAA Division III, so we have 13 intercollegiate athletic sports. So let me move to the purpose of the building. And there are several parts of this. First of all, we want to provide a different living option for our students, a living option that means that they can live in a dormitory, as they say. They will live in a residence hall with educational supervision. And there's an educational program to that, part of which is to train them to be more active and involved and conscientious citizens. And so we've been asked for years to offer that to them, and that's the one living option we were not able to offer. Student housing is important for students from other parts of Pennsylvania who can't find a place to live in the area, but they want to study near Philadelphia. It serves out-of-state and international students. And in addition to that, frankly, it provides what we call the real college experience for families of students who live nearby. They want the Penn State experience. They want to be close to Philadelphia, but they want their sons or daughters to live in a residential environment with supervision and the educational program. So that's our first purpose. Our second purpose, parallel to that, is we want to enhance the township. Over the years, It has been our college's goal to enhance our township over 3 factors. One is cultural, one is economic, and one is educational, bringing vibrancy to the community. And this particular student apartment building is going to be, as you know where it's located, it kind of serves as a gateway to the township, and so it is kind of a visible symbol of the fact that Abington Township has a very exciting educational institution within it. And then the other thing is that the new option, I need to be very clear on this, will accommodate about 400 students of the 4,000 we have. We're not talking about adding students, we're talking about accommodating them. And they will be bringing their talents and their interests and their civic commitments to bear on that shared goal, to make Abington not only a destination town, but a place where people want to come and live and work. So let me move on to some of our partnerships. Those of you who have heard this presentation know that we have for my 20 years, I'm sure before that, but what I remember. We have partnered with many organizations, and I really do not want to bore you, but I just want to give you a sense of the breadth of this. So I'm not naming all of them. Abington Township, Abington PAL, excuse me, CAPT, Abington School District, Avalthorpe Park, Abington Arts Center, Briarbush Nature Center, Abington Hospital, Abington YMCA, Rydell Park, and so on. Okay, I just want you to understand it's been 20 years and we really have a great relationship with those partners. And some examples of our contributions would include, first of all, the body of very active faculty and staff and students who bring a lot of discovery of knowledge, their educational abilities, but also the students and the staff may have family members who are employees and customers of our businesses. The volunteers and interns, and now I do want to name some of the places where our volunteers work. The interns, you'll see a list later, and it's a long list. But some of the volunteer activities of our students, Jewish Relief Agency, Phil Abundance, Special Athletes, and again, these are not located in Abington, but can benefit people in Abington. In the township itself, Abington Memorial Hospital, PAL, Briarbush Nature Center, Montgomery County SPCA, and a couple of other large groups. Volunteer Income Tax Association, that's called VITA, and that works with the IRS has organized this, and they've helped people do their taxes. And Loaves and Fishes Food Covers, so just to give you some ideas. In addition to the volunteers and the internships, we also, through some of our capstone courses, offer free IT consultation. We've done that for nonprofits and also local businesses, and free marketing consultation. And the latest has been that we were able to bring in a seed grant to establish the Innovation Lab at Abington Arts Center. I want to mention that we do offer what we call Go 60 program, which is if you're over 60 and you live in the area, you can take courses during a certain time block, because we have parking issues, if there's space available for free. We don't ask them to pay. We don't have people sign up for a program. They can take it for free. They do have to pay a small fee for the student part of it, but the rest of it's free. And I've had people go through that program and graduate, like at the age of 86. It's wonderful. And cultural and family events we also offer. So we do share a goal with you, and that is to have a positive impact on Abington Township. So through the contributions I've mentioned and others, we have a positive impact already on our local economy. We are a nonprofit, and that means that we have an obligation to use our funds with the best, to provide our students with the best possible educational experience. And that includes making sure that our students understand the importance of being a contributing citizen. And so we've modeled that ideal by making sure we also make contributions to the well-being of our community. So that being said, we want to make it clear that we recognize that Abington Township should be enhanced by our project, and you'll see a lot of evidence to that, and by the presence of our college overall. Therefore, we are ready to provide an impact fee to offset expenses that may arise due to the increased numbers of students living in the township, and generally to benefit the township residents. And I wanted to summarize the parts of the impact fee that we are happy to provide. For the Abington Police Department, would be providing overtime pay, and in the Abington Police Department, 50% of the emergency manager's salary and benefits. We really focused a lot on that area because, again, it's identified in the impact report. Also, maintenance supplies for Avalthorpe's 2 fields, baseball and softball, which, as you may know, the college built but are open to the public. And 2 full scholarships to attend Penn State Abington for Abington Township constituents each year. And we would leave that to the commissioners to decide how that would be distributed. And now I'd just like to talk a bit about the design you're about to see, but I want to talk about it in particular context, and that is that we worked very hard to respond proactively to what we thought would be the concerns of our neighbors. First of all, it is a green building, and we're doing everything we can to make that an educational green building, and you'll hear that more when you see the designs. But we want that building itself to be an educational tool for our students. We assumed that our neighbors would be concerned about parking and traffic, so we have designed the site to be, as our campus is, a multimodal site with shuttles, bike share, car share, possible walking path to the south. We're working with Lytle Park on that and a couple of other groups, and public transportation, which are all available to the students at this site. I also want to mention that Penn State does not permit first-year students to bring a car to campus. So we have designed, it's a permitting system, and only those students who can demonstrate a need such as a disability or as a medical concern are granted exceptions to that. And we checked with the university, and university-wide, the average number of exceptions granted is about 1% of the buildings, the building occupancy. For the residence halls. Upper-class students, if they want to stay in that building, will, and we think they probably will for a while because it's really going to be nice, will need permits for overnight parking off the site, and Penn State will lease those sites, those spaces off-site. We have been in communication with our neighbor, Temple Beth Am, since we purchased the property, and I want to say that we want to continue to work with them to assist them with their parking issues. Now, the other concern we assumed of the neighbors would be student behavior. And so now I'm going to call on Gail Sigel, who's the Senior Director of Student Affairs, and she's really going to address the student behavior, security, and supervision.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Gail Sigel. That's G-A-L-E and S-I-E-G-E-L. I have been the Chief Student Affairs Officer at Penn State Abington since 1993, and one of my responsibilities is student conduct. And so I have seen through those years and through my own personal experience how effective Penn State's Code of Conduct is, not only in preventing and stopping misbehavior, but also educating the students to be better citizens, citizens on the campus and citizens of the world. The university has a code of conduct, and this is for the whole university, and it clearly is told to the students from the time that they apply and throughout their time at Penn State. There is an on-campus policy that would include the area that Penn State owns and, of course, would include the residence area. But it also includes off-campus. We believe a student is a student wherever they are, and they represent the community and they represent Penn State. So if a student is off-campus, maybe in the community, the immediate community, or they could be in a study abroad program and be in Italy, if they in any way violate a local, state, or federal law, then we want to know about that, or they present some kind of conflict. And what I would do is I would investigate. And if they have violated one of the code of conduct, they would be sanctioned appropriately like all students. In the students that will be living in the residence hall, besides the basic code of conduct, which of course they'd be expected to follow, they also will have what we call community standards. That's the standards that the residence hall would establish for them. This is clearly told to them. In fact, they have to sign a contract, and very clearly within the contract, it states all of the behaviors and the philosophy of the residence hall and what is expected of students. And if students don't follow those or completely violate them, then they will be asked to leave the residence hall. Now, some of them are very simple. For example, you can't bring pets to the dormitory, or the residence hall. You can bring fish, though, but no other pets. And there are other basic things about decorating and things like that. But the really important code and what they have to follow is the noise violation. And basically, there is what they call a courtesy requirement, which is regardless of what day it is, 24/7, people have to respect that they have neighbors next door in the apartment. So anytime they're making noises which are bothering, because we know the purpose here is to have students studying when they want to study and sleeping when they want to sleep. So if a neighboring apartment says that there is noise, they're expected to turn down that noise and to abide by that. If the neighbor doesn't do it, then of course the people that we're going to talk about that are in the building to help monitor that and supervise that will step in. On top of that, there are established quiet hours from Sunday until Thursday, from 8 p.m. to 8 a.m. It's called quiet hours. That means you need to be in your room, quiet, no other room hearing, noise has to be limited, any kind of radio or whatever. From Friday through Saturday, it is 10 p.m. through, 1 a.m., till 10 a.m. So those are watched and monitored, and of course, with the supervision, we have 2 RAs on each floor, 10 RAs altogether. These RAs are trained, they're upperclassmen. They go through an actual class in which they learn what they need to do, how to notify somebody if something happens. They also are mentored during the whole process. So if they have a problem, they know who to go to get the help. On top of that, we have 2 professionals living in the building 24/7. They need at least a bachelor's degree, mostly a master's degree, and they are the coordinators of housing. They're there to help the RAs and, of course, help the students. And, of course, we have all of the resources of the college campus itself if that's needed. Karen always reminds me of this. Penn State does not allow alcohol in any of its residence halls, regardless of age. So if you have somebody living in there that's 22, they may not have any alcohol.
Okay, Mrs. Siegel, we have a question of you.
Certainly.
I have a couple of questions just about the connection between the proposed site and the main campus. What activities will occur at main campus during the evening hours that would attract the students that are going to be living in the housing?
Well, we hope to have activities, as we do now. We have activities now in the evenings, on some weekends, which are planned by our student activities people. If we're having activities like that, we will make sure that we have transportation back and forth. We do have transportation going all evenings, and we will just, I am sure, if we have an activity Saturday evening, we will provide the
So
transportation.
what time are those
they need.
activities going on?
We usually stop 12 o'clock. That's our usual time, and we also always have police on hand during those activities.
And what's the plan for the university to handle pedestrian traffic from main campus to the housing space?
As far as, we've been
Say
students
if
walking.
Students to choose, like on a night to night, if the students choose not to go on the shuttle.
Well, if students choose to walk, they may. But my experience, we have students living in the Nittany apartments, which are fairly close to the campus. In all the years that we have had students there, they always wait for the shuttles. They do not want to walk.
Where's the Nittany apartments?
Nittany Apartments is right near the McDonald's, and we have Abington
Okay.
students
So
living
quite
in
a
there.
bit further. This is about a half a mile.
The Nittany Apartments?
No, the place we're talking
I
about.
think it's close to a mile from the location.
Okay.
And it may be further if you would walk along 611, but there are lots of shortcuts through the neighborhood, safe shortcuts through the neighborhood from where the Nittany Apartments are, that I would definitely think it would be under a mile.
So you have activities until midnight, And
Not every weekend. This
understand,
would,
but you potentially
once
have
every 2 months, something like that.
you have activities until midnight, and I guess what I'm getting at is there's not really a definitive plan as to how to handle pedestrians coming from the university to the student housing.
I would say that we would make sure we have transportation, so I don't think students would be walking. I really believe, as they have in every event that we have, take whatever transportation that we offer.
And one other question: the sanction setup for the
Yeah.
university. How does that work? So
It is-
give me the steps as to how if somebody was caught with alcohol in the university in the
Okay,
housing.
somebody's caught, that's an easy one to do. Any first offense, any offense, students go through a program. It's called the Basics, which we provide on the campus. They take a inventory of their own drinking behavior, plus there's an educational piece talking about how much you drink and your body weight and if there's food. They complete that, and then that is reviewed by an alcohol specialist. We have a certified alcohol counselor on campus, and they must meet with that person for 2 visits. If it's found that they do have a problem, then they must continue meeting with that counselor.
And then what happens on the second time?
The second time, then it would be 1, they go through a second program. There are actually 3 levels to the program. The first is what I told you. The second program lasts longer and involves more. But then they also would be sanctioned. There's 3 kinds of sanctions. There is the sanction which says you're on probation, where you have a warning, or if it's really a serious effect, you may have to leave the university for a period of time. But the most important sanction, I believe, and the one that works, is the educational sanction. So it may be that they have to go to AA meetings. It may be in other cases they've got to work with the fire department if they pulled a fire alarm. So the sanctions, the educational piece always relates to what the offense was and hoping to educate them. We may require a student to continue counseling. If there is an effect that the drinking continues, they will have to go for counseling. And it may be, depending upon what the offense is, that they can't return until they show us proof from a certified counselor that they have completed the program and that they will follow the rules.
So after the third time, they're asked to leave the housing?
It depends. I don't know what that, with an alcohol offense, at that point, it would come to the conduct standards, and it would depend upon what the offense was. It all really depends on how, what level it is, and if the student themselves were in some kind of jeopardy, or there was some threat to other people and their safety, because that's really the important thing, is how well that person doesn't get hurt or anyone else.
I mean, they're independent of the ordinance, and I'm going to keep them independent, but the answers to both of those lines of questions that I have are things that I think need to be discussed further in the operation of the housing.
And I'm sure
not entirely happy with those answers,
Yeah.
but I know they're also separated from the ordinance itself.
Well, I will say that being part of Penn State, we have lots of experts. So as we develop our plan, we'll be talking to people at University Park who have been doing this for many, many years, and they will help guide us to make sure. And that's the wonderful thing of being part of Penn State. You have a lot of expertise and a lot of people willing to guide you so you do the right
Well, I would
thing.
hope that conversation includes part of the community, the police department, and
Absolutely.
other township staff, because, I mean, this is our first this is going to be our first, if it passes, is going to be our first student housing project, and I think there are some sensitivities along the lines of the things that we were talking about that, I mean, personally, I think need to be worked on.
And I agree with you. I mean, that's a concern of ours. The student safety, the community safety, that is our biggest concern.
All right, thank you.
Counsel, moving forward, do you have any objection to the commissioners asking the speaker questions
Absolutely not.
as they're at the podium?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
That's absolutely fine.
It's probably easier for, okay, thank you. Any other questions of commissioners of the speaker? Commissioner Spiegelman.
Thank you, President Luker.
Is this of the?
Yeah, Gail, I don't know if this would be, this might be a question for you. It vaguely relates to Commissioner Klein's question. Obviously, the efficacy of both the enforcement of the code of conduct and the the efficacy of the Penn State security force are going to directly affect the amount of police overtime ultimately that's going to be necessary on the part of our police department. I know this. I know it's been mentioned in the earlier meetings that the Penn State's own force is going to be increased. Have you guys made decisions yet about by how many officers or security personnel? That's not. I was just wondering if that was decided yet. Okay.
It is part of the solution.
Okay.
I mean, it is part how we'll make sure that it's
Okay.
enforced.
Thank you.
Any other questions of this speaker? Okay, if not, Mrs. Sandler, did you have a question?
I just wanted to add a follow-up to that answer, and that is that we have had a wonderful working relationship with the Abington Police Department. So Chief Kelly is someone that we would involve in that discussion, and we've already met with him to talk about that. But just that relationship will have to be very close and tight.
Okay, next speaker, please.
Hi, my name is David Adi, last name spelled A-D-E. I'm a principal at S&P Architects, and I'm the principal in charge of this project. Principal? I'm the principal in charge of this project. So this the overall stats of the project: 390 student beds, 10 resident assistant beds. Those are the folks that Gail described who are living on each floor of the building. Overall, those beds are organized into 88 student apartments and 10 resident assistant apartments. Then there are the 2 professionals who are in the building 24 hours a day, 55 parking spots, 2 that we're targeting for a car share, and as Mark has outlined, we're in the PB district. This is an aerial photograph of the existing conditions. We have Old York Road here, the Spur Road here, Saturn dealership, the synagogue, the office building. Across the street, we have the library and other businesses and residences. And then to the northeast, we have the large residential neighborhood. Zooming in on that a little bit more, the orange line represents our property line, and likewise, as has been described earlier, there's an existing buffer around the 3 sides of the property. We're going to be maintaining and increasing this buffer, and all of the access, as Mark outlined, will be from the Spur Road. We will not be, we will be respecting these property lines on 3 sides. This is the proposed site plan, and again, you can see the buffer, how we're enhancing it. It's a linear building. Dr. Sandler talked about sustainability and the importance, the role that project plays in this project, and the linear building allows for maximizing daylight. So we want to bring as much daylight into the building, minimize the amount of energy that we use. Variety of different systems to also control energy. So a very energy efficient building. But I think more importantly, the impact that it can have on Abington and on the community and the neighbors is how we're approaching the site design. We are, as Mark said, increasing the green space. You can see green space in the front of the building and a larger green space on the east side of the building. And these darker areas are what we call rain gardens, managing the stormwater. We're keeping as much of the stormwater on site as possible, minimizing the impact to the existing infrastructure. We are increasing the tree canopy. You can see all of the new trees. And then we're tucking the parking, which we acknowledge is a necessary part of the project, to the sides of the property, minimizing its visual impact that it has, again, on the neighbors. This is stepping back out again. So you see Old York Road, the Spur Road, proposed site. And then below you can see a massing elevation of our neighbors. So this is the proposed apartment building. This is the synagogue next door, and then this is the office building. And so you can see that we're respecting the height limit of our neighbors and also respecting the height limit of the zoning ordinance, or existing zoning. As far as what this building looks like, we've looked to the campus for inspiration. The warm grays and browns of the stone, the permanence of the structure, and also the outdoor space, making sure that we're providing relief from the building and places for students to gather, as well as places for green things to grow. And this is our proposed design for the main entry. Again, you can see the warm grays and tans, a mix of stone and brick. We're breaking down the scale of the building by contrasting materials, so tan and gray brick, and then this represents stone, and then the entire base of the building likewise is stone. Here you can see one of the rain gardens that I was talking about, manages the stormwater on site, and really brings visual interest throughout the year, not to mention creating healthy ecosystems for friendly little insects and other critters. This is the entrance canopy. We've brought the canopy out to the street edge to introduce the overall entrance to the building, which is here at the center of the knuckle, but really engaging the architecture, bringing it all the way out to the street. Stepping way back, this is a similar view taken from the Memorial Garden and or Memorial Park. And again, you can see how we're breaking down the scale, the massing of the building, using different materials. At the corners, we're dropping the height of the building down even more to further break it down. And mixing in with the masonry components, glass components that are going to house the lounges and study areas. So mixing, again, the different materials to break down the scale of the building. And that same quality of design continues 360 degrees around the building. This is a view of the east side of the building. Those same materials are continuing around that side. And I've just brought some examples of our other work. We've been doing green buildings for over 25 years, and this represents a variety of projects for Penn State, but also for the Department of Conservation and Natural Resources, the state park system, where we've worked on, I think we're on our 10th building right now for the DCNR, and those projects are LEED certified, they respect nature, and they also have an educational component. So wherever we can, we want to make the sustainable features visible. Three of these are LEED certified. The fourth is not LEED certified because it was completed prior to.
And are you going to go for LEED certification here?
We are.
And what level?
Certified.
Just certified, not gold, silver.
At this point, our goal is certified. We're going to push it as far as we can.
Okay.
And then just to wrap up my portion of the discussion, this is a typical apartment, 4 beds, 2 beds in each bedroom, a living room, a kitchen, and then this is the bathroom core. There's a variety of sizes of these units. The typical one is about 800 square feet, but they vary from 300 to 1,100 depending on how many students are in each room.
So will you have any 3-bedroom units?
We will have 3-bedroom units. Those are the larger 1,100 size.
How many of those do you have?
We have 15 of those.
Thank you.
Will you, what other common areas will there be in the building?
Sure. There will be what we're calling the living room, which is the main sort of lobby entrance space in the building. That's on the first floor and faces the 2 green spaces I described. At each knuckle of the building, which are kind of the elbows, there are lounge spaces and study spaces. And then also on the first floor, there's a multi-purpose room for about 35 people that would be meetings, small assemblies, serving the folks that live in the building.
It's anticipated that so each unit will have a kitchen,
Yes.
and it's anticipated that that will be where all of their food service meals take place, or
The majority of them, there is a food service
planned
on
on campus.
but the goal is, we understand that there's not a 24-hour food service, so the apartments will each have a kitchen. Yes.
Thank you.
Commissioner Mars?
Where will the flagpole go?
Quite honestly, we haven't located the flagpole.
But we're going to have a flagpole. Okay. Because it is Veterans Memorial Island that you're in front of, and back of.
They're right next to.
Okay.
Any other questions of the architect?
Thank you.
Anything else, sir? Thank you.
Good evening. My name is David Babbitt. I'm a land planner. I've been asked to take a look at this proposed zoning ordinance text amendment from the perspective of land planning. As we have seen, the design of the proposed development on Old York Road has a variety of public transportation options available. The Route 55 bus line is right out front. It's within a half a mile of the Noble train station. It's also to be served by Penn State University shuttles. The shuttles will connect to the campus, also to the train station, to other student housing, and the like. All of this speaks to the reduced need for parking, as well as the reduced generation of vehicle trips on a daily basis. We believe that the number of vehicle trips will be relatively low, largely because of these shuttles. Most students are not going to be permitted to drive and own their own cars and park them there. The fewer trips per day would also be compared to all of the uses that are permitted by right in the PB district: retail, hotel, restaurant. All those would generate far more trips. This site is walkable to shops, walkable to restaurants, walkable to the train station, all these uses along Old York Road and the Fairway, reducing the vehicle trips even further. Compared to the present development, I would suggest that the proposed development is a great deal more attractive. It would eliminate what I would consider to be a blighted property. It would lead to a significant reduction in the impervious surface coverage on the site, approximately 20%. The impacts across the township would be limited. I think Mr. Jonas either has or will soon mention that the ordinance has been crafted to apply to only a handful of sites around the township because of the minimum lot size, the maximum distance from the campus and from regional rail stations. Mr. Poole will discuss the number of full and part-time jobs to be created. It's significant. There will be a significant positive economic impact to the township and to the region, as well as a positive impact on nearby property values. We believe there will be a limited fiscal impact to the township, and the reason is because we believe there will be very few township services that will be necessary for this proposed development. We also believe that the development is in compliance with your 2007 comprehensive plan. In the goals and objectives, it discusses transit-oriented development, development of medium and high-density residential development at transportation nodes and in commercial districts, and this is exactly that sort of development. It would promote a mixture of uses for the business districts along the main arteries. Obviously, this would be one of them, and a mix of uses within the commercial zoning districts in order to develop a mutually supporting climate amongst the uses. Restaurants, retail, all need supporting residents in order to improve business. In the transportation section, the township is looking at its policies regarding housing near train stations, and obviously this is one opportunity for that. Finally, in the land use section, Penn State is listed as an asset to Abington Township. We believe it certainly is. Permitting a residence hall owned and operated by the university would increase the status and appeal of the university. Finally, the Montgomery County Planning Commission review was strongly in favor of the recommended amendment, and the Township Planning Commission, I believe unanimously, voted in favor of recommending the amendment for adoption. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Could you go through the shuttle destinations again, please?
I might not be the best person to discuss the shuttle destinations, but somebody will be happy to do that.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you.
I had a couple questions. Right person to ask about ordinances, or does that go back to Mark?
Probably. Well, either one of us. We'll try.
I'd rather grill Mark than anybody.
You'd rather, grill Mark?
So on the ordinance under Section 2, 1.1, it talks about located the Township of Abington for the university with educational facilities. And then in under B, under that section, it does not label that it's in Abington. It talks about student housing must be within 2 miles of a principal campus or college or university which owns and operates the apartment building or building. I guess this is more of a question for the solicitor. Do you think that that's connected enough that that this is clear that it needs to be owned and operated by a university or college in the township?
When we took a look at the draft ordinance in its totality, we believe that the way this is written indicates that the college or university must be located within Abington Township.
I just wanted to make sure that's clear enough. And can somebody talk to the distances that were put into the ordinance and why 2 miles was chosen for both?
Our next speaker can do that.
Okay.
Excellent segue.
And then one other question, Mark Pennical, the PB zoning district current impervious coverage allowable, is that 80% or 70?
Your current percentage in the PB district for properties over 30,000 square feet, which I believe this would be, is 70% impervious.
Okay. And the ordinance doesn't change that. You're still relying on the PB zoning district's impervious coverage calculation. Okay.
Hold on, sir. I have another question. Commissioner Myers?
Thank you, and I hope this is for you. The very back of the property where the, I want to call the wooded area begins, you can kind of see a line there. Will that be fenced? Will there be a fence there?
That's a question, again, for someone else. I do not.
Okay.
We're currently...
If you could stand up and use the microphone, thank you.
And I apologize, but not until I saw this picture did it
Sure.
resonate. The property line, what might be the property line, but certainly the difference between the property and kind of the natural area in the back, it's almost a straight line.
Sure. So this is the property line, and this is
And
part
that's
of...
and that's what I'm referring to.
Right. So that's a low point. What we're proposing is that we actually have a fence at the top of that hill, which it also will serve as safety to keep students. I mean, in some areas there's as much as a 15-foot drop. So there will be a fence along these steep slopes, but not at the property line.
But will the fence make it so that you can't get access to that wooded area?
It's a 6-foot high fence.
And it's going to be the full, from corner to,
Sure. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Just to introduce myself, because I'm the next guy up anyways, right?
He really was.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's Craig Bryson, Bryson. I'm Associate Vice President at Pennoni Associates, Pennoni. Got it? Yep. We're good. Okay. Okay. There's a steep slope that descends from this property into the back property, and there's a natural culvert. For safety purposes, we have put a chain link fence 6 foot high at the top of the steep slopes. It does not extend currently on the plans to each property corner, but the steep slopes are from about this area to about this area. So the fence right now does not extend from tip to tip, but it's probably 75% of it.
Well, forgive me, but it's been many years since my college days.
Yes.
But that looks like a really good place to have a party.
Yeah, I wouldn't know about that. I didn't do that in college.
My question is, and something to think about, that maybe that access, there should be something so that you can't gain access from corner to corner.
We can certainly address that during land development. That would be certainly appropriate.
Just something to think about.
Yeah, absolutely.
Commissioner Sanchez.
Thank you, President Luker. And I don't know if you're going to get to this, Mr. Bryson, but one of the things that came up at the Planning Commission meeting that just might be worth highlighting, that back area also serves as the emergency fire access, right? It has nothing to do with the fence question.
Yes,
but-
Mr. Addy showed that we had parking at the side to keep parking out of the front. However, we do have a link that appears green, but it's actually supported in order to facilitate emergency vehicles to get the full perimeter of the building. And that'll be a reinforced turf system.
Thank you.
Commissioner Spiegelman.
Just a quick follow-up. That reinforced turf system, is that considered part of the pervious coverage?
No,
That is considered impervious.
This is actually a new system that is actually turf and soils, but is reinforced by fiber links within the soil and how it's compacted on the way up.
Okay.
So it's
Pretty
it's for
impervious.
subject of review during the land development process.
Thank you.
Mr. Jones.
Follow-up thank you, President Luker. Follow-up to Commissioner Myers. Would the type of fence possibly aid to that? I mean, the chain link fence, it's been a long time since my days also, but I remember being able to climb over a chain link fence, and there are other types of fence that make that more difficult.
Yeah, and again, we can table that during the land development process, but we are committed to put in a fence already at 75%, and then we, at your discretion, can modify it or look at it during the land development process.
Yes, is the answer to your question. It can be addressed at land development. It can also be addressed with certain type of landscaping, firethorn, honey thorn. There's other ways to deter people from gaining access other than fences. You get cut up, you ain't going back.
Now, Mr. Bryson, did you have a presentation to make, because you were asked questions before you even started?
I'm the next speaker, so.
Begin by addressing
Exactly.
the mild question that Commissioner Klein asked.
Sure, why don't we get into that right
Okay,
now?
go ahead.
The 2-mile radius was developed when we were looking at this strictly based on the fact that this is a shuttle-based complex, and it was more of a comfort level of just efficiencies with the shuttle service in relationship to the campus. That was it. There was no strategic way of looking at a map saying that, well, we want to hit all these areas within the township. I didn't even refer to a map when I was help drafting it. It was just simply a 2-mile radius was convenient and efficient for the shuttle service to go from the campus to the facility.
So what's the distance between the campus and the site?
Well, there's 3 ways to look at it, either by the roads or by the way the crow flies. By the crow
I believe
flies,
the ordinance, if I remember correctly, that'll run by the way the crow flies, not by the way you walk.
it's about 0.6 miles from the crow flies.
Okay, and how about to the train station?
About the same. It's about 0.53, I believe.
Okay, thank you.
With that being said, we did do a study on the 2-mile radius. So we took the township zoning, and we've identified in the pink areas all the PB districts within Abington Township. And then what you see there is what I was calling the 2, 2, and 2. This is the 2-mile radius from the campus, and the the yellow-green circles are the 2-mile radius from each train station within the township. And then what we've done is actually looked at each of those pink areas, broke them down, and identified how many properties are within those pink areas throughout. In total, of the available properties are 31. However, just take for example, this is basically the mall, okay? And the mall structure itself, the Dick's Sporting Good actually goes over these 2 parcels, and the building itself of the mall connects to all these parcels. So a lot of these parcels are just divided up based on the fact that they're probably business lots, because, for example, this lot right here is this anchor plus all its parking. And the same with this parcel here and this parcel here. So, they're divided up based off of, I think, the anchor tenants and so on and so forth. The only distinguishing parcel at the mall is this piece right here, which is all parking. However, it's not 2 acres. The other parameter is that it has to be larger than 2 acres. And it's the same basically in all the rest of the parcels at the pavilion, at the at the other shopping centers, that all the parcels within themselves are interconnected. Individual lots that can be developed are very few, probably less than 10% of that 31. For example, Area C is our piece. This right here is the combination of the grocery store and and the other facilities that are within there, you know, and this is the Giant, and the Giant then incorporates the strip stores incorporated with parking. So it's 31 properties, but again, they're all tied together and really kind of divided up or either cross easements for parking areas or whatever. But the key is that they're all developed.
And the PB zoning district allows for structured parking?
I believe it does. I'd have to refer back to the zoning officer, but I believe it does.
Use C16 in the PB is a parking garage.
Right.
I can't tell Commissioner what some requirements are, but that's a
No, I understand.
by right use.
Okay. So with structured parking, I mean, some of these properties could potentially, with a whole lot of finagling, could become in play.
If they're over 2 acres, yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Is there any other questions on the, and just real quick, to answer the previous question, we just had an exhibit of the shuttles and where they stopped. And these indicate from College Station apartments that were previously mentioned all the way down to Broad Street in Olney in the city. And you can see Fox Chase. All these are serviced by shuttle service to the campus. I am not the shuttle expert as far as how it operates and everything. We obviously have staff here that can answer any particular questions when it comes to shuttle parking, or shuttle service.
Okay. Commissioner Heckler.
Yes, I did want to ask a specific question about that. For the shuttle service from the new apartment complex to the main campus, what will the route be up Old York Road, and what will the turn street be?
Okay. That hasn't been worked out as much, but the primary would most likely to come down, yeah.
To turn on Susquehanna onto...
Susquehanna.
Okay. Okay. Right, right.
And this would be a convenient also return down to the train station.
Yep.
So they would go south on 611, pick up at the train station, go north, pick up on the way up, and then go to the route that Chancellor spoke of.
I know we're not on shuttles, but since we're on shuttles, how many are there? I mean, it seems like a lot of stops, and I know you have a lot of students.
Yeah. Come up and use the microphone.
My name's Terry Roman, R-O-M-A-N. I'm the Chief Operating Officer at Penn State Abington. Currently, we have 2 shuttles that come from the 2 major metropolitan stations down in Philly, Bridge and Pratt and Broad and Olney. It's a continuous loop that starts about 7 a.m. and runs to 6 p.m. And then we have 3 15-passenger shuttle vans that run a continuous loop out to the Target parking lot, the Huntington Fields parking lot, and the Rydell train station.
How long does it take for that loop?
Which loop?
The one you were just talking about, Target parking lot, the one that's
It's a
going to
continuous
probably
loop, I would
incorporate that
say.
site.
Round trip, 15 minutes.
Will there be any shuttles that will be directed specifically to any additional shopping places? A concern would be, and I know kids could walk, but if the units have kitchens, they don't have cars, and they're being, expected to make a lot of their food there, they'll have to get to grocery stores. So yes, they could walk, but that would limit them to, I believe, the 2 would be Trader Joe's and Whole Foods.
We will be providing shuttles on the weekends for that. And there will also be a car share. There'll be 2 cars on site that the students can use.
And a bike share?
What about?
And a bike share.
That's it.
Sorry.
Correct.
Yeah, you're good. What about to Willow Grove Mall?
Yes.
They like to shop.
We will have shuttles there. And then you also have public transportation can take them there.
College Station is the one in Willow Grove, yeah. Okay.
Any other questions of this gentleman? All right, we'll go back to Mr.
Thank you.
Is Mr. Bryson complete your presentation?
Yes, and I'd like to introduce someone from our firm that will talk about traffic briefly with a traffic impact study, Deb Ferraro.
Yes, it's Deborah Ferraro, Ferraro. I manage the Transportation Division of Pennoni Associates in the Philadelphia office. Our firm completed a traffic impact study for the site. The study includes 8 intersections in the vicinity of the site. The final decision on the study intersections was coordinated both with the township and the township traffic engineer for the final decisions on which ones were selected. We will be submitting all the details of the report and supporting documentation with the land development submission. But I thought tonight I'd give you just a 2-minute update on the results. As part of the study, we look at operating conditions at the study intersections, and we evaluate existing conditions. And then we look at conditions for the opening day of the development, which in this case is about 2 years. 2017 is expected opening day. And that's without the development. And then we look at conditions with the traffic anticipated to be added to the study intersections when the development is open. The operating conditions, we look at the quantitative measure is called level of service, with level of service A being the best operating conditions and level of service F being the worst. And we're really evaluating, and it's industry standard to look at the peak hour conditions. So for the study area, that's really the rush hour on a weekday, both morning and afternoon rush hour are the conditions that we evaluated. And when we're comparing, so we do a comparison of no build to build. And there's very clear guidelines for impacts. And those impacts are if you have a drop in level of service, and if you do have a drop in level of service, you have to have an increase of delay of over 10 seconds, and that's overall level of service at the intersections. So to give you an update, we have no drops in level of service, and in fact, very little increases of delay. They range from 1 second to 3 second increase in delay, which is very minimal. And the reason is because it's a dorm. We don't expect it to generate a lot of traffic. As a lot of the speakers have mentioned, that most of the students will be taking shuttles. There is some parking on site. It's a combination of visitors and some staff. So they'll be generating a small amount of traffic. That's it.
Any
Can I
questions?
just make one comment if I could?
Sir.
Just so the board's aware, the township has already contracted with traffic and planning and design, which Pennoni has been reviewing their numbers and their intersections with. So once the traffic study is submitted as part of the land development, traffic planning and design will be reviewing it for the township side of this, and any adjustments or alterations will be made between the two traffic planners.
So have you looked at coming out of, I guess, what is that, what's the name of that spur?
Collector Road?
The spur. The spur road, coming out of there. I mean, obviously, you can't make a left, you can't go southbound on Old York Road. Have you given some thought as to how that traffic pattern for somebody who wants to go south on Old York Road is going to solve that problem?
Yes, yes. I mean, I would anticipate that traffic would go up to Susquehanna. Would
And then
either
do
turn
what?
left or right and circulate back.
Circle back
And
through
there's
the neighborhoods, or?
No, I mean, there's a number of routes. I mean, it depends on where the destination is on southbound on Old York Road. So they could, travel back to Valley. They could travel to Susquehanna and go to a destination, just through traveling straight on Susquehanna, and some might circulate back on, if it's a very, what do I want to say, nearby destination on Old York in the south. But if it's a more regional route, a little bit farther, then I would expect that it would continue on Susquehanna.
And what are the typical peak hours that you use for student housing? I imagine they're probably different than normal peak hours.
They are, but it's really, for a traffic impact study, the one thing we do is we look at the peak hour on the adjacent roadway. Then we're actually extra conservative. We look at the peak hour for the site, which is more conservative. So we take the peak hour for the site, add that to the peak hour for the roadway, and it's just more conservative. So that's what we took a look at.
Okay. And that anticipated the traffic potentially going down Susquehanna, up the fairway, and back onto Old York Road to go southbound?
Yes.
Okay. And how far out?
I mean, there's
you
a
might
number
s-
of routes. We
What's
didn't
that?
put it all on one route. I mean, we took a real clear look at the routes and divided in the routes, and that's sort of all the details are in the study, but that's certainly one of them.
And one last question: what distance did you go? You might have said this before. What distance did you go from the site out and examine those intersections? How far out?
Oh, well, yeah, I can give you some of the limits. I mean, we went, the study intersections include Old York Road. So in the south, we're at the Fairway, and at the north, we're at Woodland.
Okay.
We travel east as far as Valley and Rydell. And we also look at Woodland as far east as Huntington. So they're pretty far out. We expect very little traffic generated to some of them, but we included them in the study just to make sure that we had that documentation for the township.
Thank you.
I have a question. Temple Betham is right next door.
Yes.
Do you anticipate any problems with parking from the congregants there on your property or vice versa? You don't anticipate any? It just seems like sometimes I've seen cars parked, maybe I'm incorrect, that some of their cars are parked along in front of your proposed location, is that correct?
Yeah, on the weekends.
And especially on high holidays, not the.
So that is true?
Well, on high holidays, I mean,
Yeah.
that whole area is
Will there be
packed.
any restrictions on
So,
parking, or will it be open?
I guess my question is there some sort of agreement between the two of you, should that occur, that they can park on your property, or?
I think Mr. Bryson can address it. We have had conversations with Temple Betham about this, and I think Mr. Bryson wants to add something to that dialogue.
Yes.
Thank you.
We've captured the parallel parking that's already existing there, and during high holidays and real congested, the temple, I assume, because it's done very orderly, has people park like in an angular motion front end on the spur road.
That's what I thought.
Yes. Now, however, we do have 57 parking spaces, and we have some reserved for certain employees and for our car share and for special needs students that might be residents of there. I'm sure that we could talk to the temple during high holidays or during special services. If we have 30 or 40 of those available, we can make them available. It'd have to be coordinated, and it'd have to be, done ahead of time, but yes, we could provide when available.
Because I don't anticipate, I see someone raising their hand, because I don't want the students coming out saying, these are our parking spaces, and I guess a speaker that's from the synagogue will be speaking to that. Okay, thank you.
Are you reducing any parking on the spur road?
The ironic thing right now is there's nothing out there that's marked except for the parallel parking spaces on
Let me rephrase
our
the
side of the
question.
road.
In your
We don't-
estimation, are you?
Yeah, we're eliminating one parallel parking spot, or no, I'm sorry, two parallel parking spots on our side of the road. I hate to say our side of the road, but the side of the
Understood.
the east side of the road.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, any other questions of this? Yes, Commissioner Farron.
Thank you, President Luker. Just a quick question, and if I missed it, if you said, I apologize. But when you were looking at the traffic study, when you pull out onto Old York Road northbound, it's very easy to turn left into the library and then left south again onto Orchard. Was that part of the traffic study?
No, I wouldn't anticipate. I mean, it is a little bit difficult to travel into that library lot, and there's a real quick weave, too, to get there. And
Sure.
there isn't and also an arrow to turn, so you have to wait for, traffic to clear or a gap in the opposing traffic to get there. So I don't anticipate a lot of traffic to go into that.
But it wasn't part of the study?
Traffic to go into the library.
Okay, not part of the study, though. You did not include
How much is currently doing that, or what's?
any aspect of it whatsoever, either the current usage or the possibility of.
Well, we certainly, both an examination of site conditions, made a determination of where we thought the routes would be. So we took a look at the library, both in the field, and, we didn't think that was going to be a significant route, significant enough that we would put it in our study.
Okay.
And again, we're talking about like 20, very few cars. I mean, we're talking about, this is going to generate in the peak hour, not close to 30 cars. That's both directions, like entering and exiting, total 30. So at the most, it's 20 cars in one direction.
Sure.
And that filters at intersections, so that's like 1 to 3% of the traffic on Old York Road. Like, it's a very small amount.
Okay. Thank you.
I have another question. Commissioner Farron brought up a point. The library is right across 611, or close to it.
Yes.
Is there a pedestrian crossing there already, or is there one proposed in case they want to access the Abington Library?
There is a pedestrian crossing.
Okay.
Yes.
And signage for pedestrians' safety?
Yes.
Okay.
And we have that, we have the facilities also detailed in the report as to what's in existence, but there are facilities there. We analyze the intersections on Old York Road, and there are crossings, the intersections on Old York Road.
How would that 30 cars compare to the car dealer that was there previously?
Yeah, I would assume it'd be less.
But you don't have any data on that?
No. But just from all the studies I've done over the years, less. But I didn't look at the exact numbers. So we were actually, we studied conditions after it was closed. That's where our counts were conducted. So.
I think we have two more. Commissioner Spiegelman and then Commissioner Jones.
I just wanted to clarify a point to your question, President Luker. At the library intersection by Old Orchard, at the southernmost end of the library, when the signals were upgraded in anticipation of the obviously failed Rydal Waters development, there were not only the crossing and arrows, but hand signal buttons with hand controls were installed.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Jones?
This deals with the library. It might not be appropriate as a traffic study, but somebody could jump in on it. Do we anticipate, because if you look at the common areas, there are the lounge and study areas in the knuckles of the building, but is it an anticipation that during the day, for the quiet time, there would be significant use of the library? If there is going to be significant use, has that foot traffic been taken into account? And then from a more operational standpoint on the library's end, would that have any type of a service impact, and this would be an Abington question, on the Abington Library, and if so, is that something that our library can withstand?
Yeah.
Or are they prepared for?
Well, I could just quickly answer the traffic portion of it. We did do an estimate of pedestrian traffic generated from the facility. So we looked at overall trips. Those trips include pedestrian
Excuse me,
trips.
could you use the microphone, please?
I apologize.
Thank you.
We did an estimate of overall trips. So the trips include both pedestrian trips and vehicular trips. So the ones that I was talking about were the vehicular trips. There will be pedestrian trips. And we did assume that Old York Road would be a destination. Now, I didn't specifically look at, the library, and I didn't actually think of that, but we wanted to make sure that there were safe crossings at the intersection. So I know that there's pedestrian, as you said, the handman, countdown signals and safe pedestrian crossings on those. And again, I wouldn't expect that the volume of traffic would overload any of the crosswalks. And then maybe someone else can speak about the library.
Thank you.
Yeah, so on the question about the students in the library, we really doubt that they are going to be looking to use the Abington Library more than maybe some students are already using it, which would be if they just happen to be in the area. But we really hope that they will be staying on campus. The pattern right now is that students in between classes use the library and other spots on campus. We're actually building more collaborative spaces on campus for students to encourage them to stay. So we have not anticipated that, and I believe that we may have talked to the library, but that part I don't know. I will say, as Gail Sigel's just reminding me, a lot of this is online, and so they can stay in their rooms and do it, too.
Commissioner Spiegelman?
If I may, Mr. President, actually, I know Commissioner Sanchez and I have both discussed with Director Marshall, Nancy Hamilton-Marshall, Director of the Library, and I think they do anticipate during hours that are currently pretty dead for the library, the daytime hours, an influx of students, and it's something that Director Marshall is actually very positive about. It's something that she welcomes. Getting more sort of kind of that vibe, that energy in the library during those daytime hours when things are normally, quite dead.
Thank you. That was my concern also, that a lot of times people use, I know many of us have used the library. It's a good workspace, quiet space, and so if they could use it for that, as long as the library is prepared for it, and it's a win-win for everybody, but just knowing that they're prepared, I think, is a good thing.
They're ready and able from what Director Marshall reported.
And I also think the proactive approach of having those common spaces on campus is also a good thing. So thank you for clarifying.
Are there any other questions of Mrs. Ferrero or Mr. Bryson? All right, if none, thank you both.
Thank you.
Thank you.
President Luker, good evening, Commissioners. My name is Todd Poole. I am President and Managing Principal of Forward Planning. We are, I'm sorry, Poole, P as in Peter, O-O-L-E, the English spelling. Also the butler in Shelley Franklin's Frankenstein. Anyway, so we were charged with performing an economic impact analysis and a fiscal impact analysis on this project, and I plan on bringing up my slideshow in a second. Apologize. Okay, here we go. So we were charged with analyzing this project both in construction and post-construction. The construction period that was analyzed was from 2015 to 2017, and then the post-construction period took us from 2018 all the way through 2026. And we have some key findings for you we want to present. First of all, just a quick understanding of what economic impact analysis involves and really the definition of it. It's also known as input-output modeling. It's been done in the economics profession for better than 80 to 90 years. You will hear we will refer to direct, indirect, and induced impacts. A direct impact is the actual construction itself taking place and the investment of that construction and all the the workers who come to the site to make that happen. The indirect economic impact, which includes economic output, it includes new jobs created, and it includes what we refer to as induced spending. Indirect takes place, in this case, when the construction, they have to buy the materials, the building materials, the lumber, the concrete, certain services that are brought in on site that are not part of the direct investment or part of the company that's coming in directly. Induced, and this is the concept that is not easily understood often by lay people, but induced is really part of the indirect, and you can think of it this way. When new jobs are created as a result of this, what we refer to as a shock to the local economic system or the local economy, people who have jobs as a result of this project, both direct and indirect, spend some of that money locally, all right, and locally as in the grocery stores, restaurants, pharmacies, shoe stores, that kind of thing. That induced effect makes its way through your economy and further creates more economic activity and jobs. So those are the three terms that we use, and in total they create a total economic effect, which we will get to shortly. What we identified is that over the entire period, both construction and post-construction, a total of 183 new as full and part-time jobs are projected. And the reason we say full and part-time is because when you do economic impact analysis, no matter what model you're using, it is difficult to know how many jobs are actually full versus part. So it's a combination of the two. We also note that the majority of that 183 jobs are as a result of the construction period between 2015 and 2017. That is, about 127 of those new full and part-time jobs are going to happen over a 2-year period, and then the majority of those will go away after the construction. Nonetheless, there will be jobs that will be created post-construction. They will be permanent jobs for the most part. And as we will show you, the majority of those permanent jobs post-construction will find their way into the local and regional retail sector. Over $35 million in total economic impact has been identified for this project, and $1.1 million in state tax revenues are also associated with the development of this project. We clearly identify a net positive impact associated with doing this development.
Is that also over the 10-year period of time?
I'm sorry, which?
Is that also over the 35 million and the 1.1 million?
That is an annual figure post-construction associated with all the economic activity from that expansion. That is state principally tax revenues, not really accruing mostly to the municipality.
It says over 35 million, the new student housing.
Oh, I'm
projects.
sorry, the $35 million one. That's the total after when it's done. That's over the 2-year period as a result of it happening.
Okay.
So let me take you through here. We have a choice to make when we do these analyses in terms of geography. Typically, economic impact analysis is done at a county level, which is considered the natural regional economy. It's either county or metro. In this particular case, we wanted to really drill down on the local area. So we used the local zip codes that are, and I think we've identified them. If they're not up here, they're certainly in the study. We used the 6 local zip codes to zero in on Abington Township proper. And then we've broken out, as you can see here on the screen, construction impacts from 2015 to 2017, associated labor income, student spending starting in 2017, 2018, and then we also look at that through all the way through 2026. One of the other things that we wanted to do is, because this is student housing, is to identify expenditures that will be principally driven by students residing on the campus. And so we used a third-party source, College Explorer, the 2013 edition, to understand how college students spend, keeping in mind that this is generic. They don't do specific market analyses for given colleges or given areas of this size. But this is representative of how college students would spend what is principally almost 100% discretionary income. Basically everything they get, they're spending. And we also note that the vast majority of what they're going to be spending are going to be in retail stores, many of which are located in your community. Grocery stores was mentioned earlier. Clearly they're going to be spending a good amount of that here. If you note on the very far right-hand column, we do an adjustment for how much expenditure actually takes place or remains in the local area, because as we all know, with our discretionary incomes, we don't spend everything we have as discretionary in the local area. Some of that leaks out because we travel to work somewhere, or maybe we're on vacation or a business trip, right? But in this case, we make a particular or an appropriate adjustment for the expenditures that students make. So, for example, we expect that 95 cents on the dollar that is spent for groceries would be spent locally in your town. Roughly 60% spent on restaurants or dining out in your town. 95% convenience stores and so forth. So you can take a look at that. That's in your report. We've identified what that is. This is just a graphic just showing how employment impacts of new student spending breaks out in terms of direct, indirect, and induced. We have that 127, or in this case it's the employment impacts of the student housing being constructed, 127 jobs. That's combined, direct, indirect, induced. We also have the economic output of the new student housing being developed. And again, this is just a 2-year period of 2015 to 2017. It's a graphic showing you employment impacts and really where the concentration of employment is going to be. As I mentioned, obviously the majority of the jobs are taking place in that first 2-year construction period, and that's that top green bar. And then after that construction period, really the majority of the jobs are happening in the retail trade sector, several jobs in healthcare, social assistance, accommodation, food services, and so forth. And that's how it breaks out. And this is what we would expect to happen. These are, this is not an office project. This is not a manufacturing project. We would expect slightly different impacts in terms of employment in different industries. Because this is a student housing project, this is what we would anticipate happening. And this is the economic impact over a 10-year project stabilization. So this is after the project is actually completed and students are occupying the housing complex. And, due to their expenditures and what they're doing in the local community, we have employment impacts, we have economic output. Economic output is the value added created, all right? So we say this term, economic output. All that means is, due to expenditures or some economic activity, separating out the cost of what gets produced, it's the value added. Think of it as GDP, and you're just looking at that net value added piece. That's what we mean by economic impact. And so all the numbers are right here. I'm not going to go through these. And this is the economic impact 10-year project stabilization and spending. This is the employment over the 10 years. So this is stabilization. And again, the majority of these jobs are taking place in retail trade, educational services, accommodation, food services. Those are restaurants and lodging facilities. We were asked also, as Chancellor Wiley mentioned, is that there is a good amount of student volunteerism and as well as internships, paid and unpaid. And there's a value to that. And we do a number of studies that looks at the time value of things that aren't rewarded with cash or some monetary means. And so what we were able to do is, through the Chancellor's office, identify the number of volunteer hours and the number of students who typically will volunteer or do internships, paid and otherwise. And that equates to supporting 35 full and part-time jobs. It equates to $3.3 million in economic output, and it equates to $72,000, almost $73,000 in state and local taxes. How do we arrive at that? Well, if I'm a student and I volunteer my time to, let's say, paint a building or fix up a building in town, right? If I didn't volunteer to do it, somebody would have to pay for that service to happen. There's a dollar value that is associated with that. We ascribe dollar values to student volunteer activity, which is appropriate. Just as, homemakers, there's an economic value to what they provide. There's a dollar value we can ascribe to that. So we do the same thing here to derive these values, some of which are real dollars and some of which are just the value of their time. So that's how we arrive at this. And it's material, because the fact that this is happening in your community means that perhaps that's a dollar not spent there, but perhaps spent in a cash register in your community. These are the myriad organizations in which internships are taking place. I'm not going to go through this list, but you can see it's quite extensive with a number of these organizations based right here in Abington. And then next, we were asked to look at a fiscal impact or the implications fiscally from this project happening. And just some key findings. We looked at how many housing units are what we refer to as in a proximity of this project. There's what's referred to in economics as a proximity effect. And proximity effect happens in all neighborhoods for a variety of reasons. So a nice, well-maintained park across the street from your house has a proximity effect on your house, which could increase the value of your house without you doing anything by 10, 15, or 20%. If that park goes away and it's a blighted building, that too will have a proximity effect, and we refer to that as a nuisance effect, right, which will decrease your property value if you do nothing to your property by possibly 10, 15%. So what we wanted to understand was what proximity effect might the college have on local housing units. And so we looked at a number of homes within 450 feet of the proposed development, and really identified that it would have no deleterious effect on those properties. One, simply because of the buffer that was shown to you earlier, and also we did a literature research on college campuses, and specifically college residence halls and their influence or impact on residential property in the nearby area, and we identified no such impacts taking place, at least in a general sense. Has it happened? Sure, but that's not a well-managed residential hall, and obviously the chancellor spoke to how that's going to be managed. Let me get through here. Like I said, we talked about the literature review that we did in order to identify what types of impacts might take place. Now we get into the fiscal impact analysis. The long and the short of it is we anticipate that there will be perhaps as much as a $35,000 increase in municipal spending, and this is taking into consideration a $13,000 per annum sewerage fee that would be paid by the university. It's taken into consideration the fact that the university has its own police force, and that for all intents and purposes, the services that the university provides, including sanitation and other services, really relieve the township of providing those types of expenditures. Nonetheless, given the data that we were provided with, we anticipate that there could be, on net, a slight annual increase to the township towards providing services to the university. And this is absent understanding what impact fees may be negotiated, if any. This is what we've identified.
Excuse me one second.
Yes.
Manager Lefevre, so the sewer rates are not subject to the tax exemption?
That's correct. The sewer rate's based on actual consumptions.
So other than the millage of the township that you would factor in, the sewer rates are still going to get paid by this project?
That's correct.
Thank you.
I would also note, and this is significant because this is a college residence hall, and it's not a typical multifamily property which would, have families, and some of those families would have children. This is a project that will not have any school-age children involved, so there will be no direct fiscal impact to the school system. So, that's not, factored in here. And again, this is pretty straightforward. It was pretty a straightforward fiscal impact analysis, simply because many of the services are going to be provided by Penn State Abington. In a nutshell, that is the analysis.
Any questions of the speaker? Commissioner Sanchez.
Thank you, President Luker. Mr. Poole, I know you condensed this a little bit in the interest of time. There was a section, pardon me if I missed it, but I did want to highlight it for the permit fees you're anticipating from the project.
I'm sorry?
The permit
right.
fees.
About $700,000 in municipal revenues associated with building permit fees. Basically, this is $700,000 that would accrue during the construction period. This is not an annual ongoing type of revenue source, but it is a one-time event.
Great. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions of Mr. Poole? Hearing none, thank you, sir.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Mr. President, that does
Counselor.
conclude our presentation tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Jonas. All right, that concludes the presentation. I'll put a motion on the floor to adopt ordinance number 2095 as submitted. However, before we vote, I'm going to ask for comments from commissioners.
Second.
Did you make the motion?
Then go back to the board.
Let's see. Mark, did you have a...
Just that you had residents that wanted to speak.
Right, I'm going to ask for comments from residents shortly. Right.
Yeah, I was just answering
Okay.
public comment.
If there are no comments from commissioners, comments from residents, could you please come forward, state your name and address, and please acknowledge our 3-minute time limit, if you will, please. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Karen Cantor, Kantor. I'm Executive Director of Old York Road, Temple Beth Am, and I'm also an Abington resident. I've been authorized by our President, Murray Cullen, to speak on behalf of the synagogue, which is adjacent to the Penn State property. Since Penn State purchased the old Saturn lot, we have become good neighbors and partners. Their leadership has kept us in the loop from the very beginning, sharing ideas and plans for the property. They are well aware of our own parking problems and have worked with us to solve them, especially during the holidays and for special events. Thank you, Terry. We do expect that this cooperation will continue. We know that the Penn State University Abington leadership is committed to helping us solve the synagogue parking problem, and we look for creative ideas that may include remote parking and shuttles during especially busy times. In addition to assistance with parking, we have worked together on joint programming, cooperated by promoting special programs sponsored by the synagogue and the college, and have done communications to make our constituents aware of our special relationship. I expect this to continue and grow over time, and hope that this year we will work with their Hillel group, which serves the Jewish students attending Penn State Abington, to increase student participation in programs and services offered by Old York Road Temple Beth Am. I've been a member of Beth Am since 1982 and executive director for 10.5 years. And I can never recall a time when the property in question was particularly attractive. I've seen the plans for the property, and when complete, the new building will surely be attractive and green. We look forward to welcoming Penn State Abington staff and students and visitors to the spur off Old York Road and to our temple. You've asked a lot of questions or spoken about the high holidays and what happens for traffic. So if you want to ask me anything about what we've done in the past, I'd be happy to try to answer your questions.
Commissioner Klein.
Do you have any concerns about security? And have you had those discussions with Penn State?
We always have concerns about security, and we work closely with Chief Kelly and his staff on security issues. Our building is in total lockdown from 7 o'clock until at least 6 o'clock every day. You can't get in unless you're buzzed in or somebody lets you in. And so I don't expect any changes in our security plan at all during those times. And in general, I think that the activity on the spur road could actually bring more secure building than we already have.
Do you have cameras set up in the back parking lot?
We have one camera at the front door facing Old York Road and one camera facing the back entrance.
I guess my concern, because your rear parking lot is pretty secluded, and along the lines of what Commissioner Myers was talking about in that back property line, some concerns about students hanging out in the back there.
Yeah, I was thinking about the fence and how that could impact security, and to be perfectly honest, our property is not fenced in the back at all. So we do have a lot of deer. We don't ever have many people hanging out in the back parking lot, but that fence wouldn't help. It might help for the drop-off, but any person, whether it was a student or anybody, who wanted to get back in that area, and it's pretty steep, all they'd have to do is walk into our parking lot and they're back there. So they could spend all they want on a fence, and I don't think a fence is really going to keep anybody out of someplace they want to go. I think I could climb a 6-foot fence even if I wanted to. So I think it's more for a safety standpoint than anything else. Our property, the back of the property is a pretty steep drop-off. A lot of people don't realize it. Before Penn State owned the property next door to us, at least since I've been involved, we've always tried to work with our neighbors for parking during the high holidays. When Saturn owned the lot, we would let them know when the holidays happened. They would tell us they would try to keep spots open for us in the front of the lot. It never happened. We never counted on it, and it never happened. So we did remote parking in cooperation with the people who owned the lot where they're now building the Ross, whatever that's going to be. We had remote parking there with their permission, and we rented vans to bring people up from that lot up to our synagogue for the holidays. More people walked up than took vans. It was pretty much a big waste of money, but we offered it as a convenience, especially if it was raining. Hardly ever taken advantage of. Since Penn State's had the property, they've allowed us to use their spot, all the spots as much as possible at no charge. And we've, up until the past, how long is it, 3 years? So before 3 years ago, we never had that parking at all anyhow. So anything is a bonus as far as that lot's concerned.
I have a question along those lines. That sounds good for right now with the current players. It sounds like you have a verbal agreement. Do you think that's a good thing to have moving forward, let's say 5 years from now, assuming the players who are here now aren't here 5 or 10 years from now? I don't know whether something in writing would be, it's just an idea. Maybe just, I'm assuming you have a verbal agreement right now, correct?
We do, and it's worked great.
If you think that's fine,
I just know that our presidents at the synagogue turn over at least every 2 years. I don't have a lifetime contract, and neither does Rabbi Lieb. So I know that the players will change. I would expect them to change, and I think institutional memory is only as good as the players who are part of that institution.
That's
so
my
I
point.
appreciate the suggestion that we have. It hasn't become necessary, but it might be something that we'd want to do going forward. But I appreciate the suggestion. It just hasn't. We've had a great cooperation up until now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions? Okay. Any other residents want to speak? Name and address, please, and 3 minutes, if you will, please.
Yeah, hi, I'm William Meyerowitz. I'm at 1085 Huntington Road. It's Meyrowitz. Yes. Meyrowitz. And I'm at 1085 Huntington Road. I'm at the top of Vinegar Hill. And I'm here tonight as a resident. I would like to acknowledge, though, that I also am the board chair for the Abington Arts Center. So in that role, I do have occasion to partner with Penn State on some various community programming, and it's been a great relationship. But I'm here tonight as a resident, and I'm also a congregant of Old York Road, Temple Beth Am. And because of where we live, my sons and my family, we often walk down. We'd be walking right in front of this property. And I'd like to say that, and I'm speaking just for my family tonight, not for any other neighbors, we welcome this development. It has been, I don't know, how long it's been since Tom Harbison's passed away. I think it's 7, 8, 9 years. That has been an empty spot with nothing going on and tumbleweeds in the parking lot since then. And we feel that we, as neighbors, we use the new site that Penn State's created for us right across the street in the athletic area. We, as good community neighbors, we'd like to see that spot filled, and we welcome having the student residents. We do anticipate some walking traffic up and down our street, and we don't anticipate a problem with it. I do see that it's an easy cut through, that students will find a way to do that. We feel that my family, we feel that with Penn State here, if there's ever any issues, we don't think we'd have difficulty getting them resolved. So that's all I really have to say. We are in support of the proposed amendment to the ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments from residents? Name and address, please.
Pam Vasserman, 130 Church Road, Jenkintown. Vasserman, Vasserman. I am a congregant of Temple Beth Am, and also I am a parent of the School of Early Learning at Temple Beth Am, and also my husband is an alum of Penn State Abington. And I would like to say that I am in support. I was actually worried about this in the beginning, and then I researched it a little bit. I was worried until I heard that there was no drinking at the dorms, so that reassures me a lot. And also, I was worried about the traffic, but now that they're working with them, with the temple, I'm very happy to hear about that. And I think this is good for the neighborhood and good for the strip, and also just bringing in the revenue from what they're going to bring in from the students. And also, I know that I go there every single day to drop off and pick up my son, and we don't go to Susquehanna, we actually go into the library or to McDowell, just saying from personal experience.
You have that on record?
So probably the library doesn't like us too much, but you know. Other than that, I'm just fully in support of this, and thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments from residents?
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am. Name and address.
I'm Amanda Detweiler, Detweiler, 1055 Huntington Road. My first question is just about the lighting. I don't know if anybody's addressed the lighting. So on the outside, the one building, the real estate building, I'll call it, you can see from Rydell, is that what that road's called now? Rydell Way, the new road connecting to Huntington. But since the dorms will actually be set back a little bit further, You might be able to see the lights further up our street depending on how the lights are set up.
All of the site, I don't know if I should talk to
I
you
don't
or.
know, I don't know.
All of the site design lighting will be within the regulations of Abington Township, and we're actually looking to, as part of the process, have discussions about minimizing the amount of light. The studies that we've looked at with the, no offense, with the current zoning, it actually allows a lot of light, and we're going to look at how we can work with the township to decrease that. Again, the sustainability goals of the project. We want to minimize both the energy consumption and night sky pollution, not to mention neighbor annoyance.
That was part of land development.
Okay, part of land development, yes. Any other questions, ma'am?
Yes. I think the traffic study, she said that they didn't look at the library as a turnaround point. We have, I think I counted 26 kids. Some of them might be around high school on our little part of the street. So that's where they cross to go to junior high. We don't have a bus to junior high. That's our crossroad because Susquehanna, even if you're at the top of the road, Susquehanna is not the right place for kids to cross. So I think people will turn around at the library, and she dismissed that as something she didn't think people would do. But coming out of the spur, it's the easiest thing to do is to make a right and turn around at the doctor's office, or make a left and turn around at the library. So with little people crossing there, I think that there should be some value given to looking at that.
That'll be something, going back to what Mr. Jonas said, that'll also be something that'll be fully examined. I mean, it's been touched on here, but we'll probably fully examine that during the land development phase if it gets that far.
She just said she didn't think it would happen, so
No,
it wasn't studied.
I agree with you.
I think the applicant's attorney will make note. I think the traffic person had left the meeting, so I think
She did,
the applicant would make note of that and pass it on to her. We would appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments from residents? Name and address, sir.
My name is Tom Stone. I live at 1535 Woodland Road. I've been a resident there with my family, my wife, my 3 boys for 25 years. Our house is literally at the corner of Woodland and School Lane, so there are very few properties closer to Penn State than the house we've lived in. I am also a full-time faculty member at Penn State in the business faculty. That's as of, I guess it was last summer. Prior to that, I worked for 25 years as a financial executive with Siemens Corporation in Malvern. I'll also add, although I'm not here representing Rhode Island Meadowbrook Civic Association, I am the president of Rhode Island Meadowbrook Civic Association. This topic has not yet been discussed with our board, so I'm just, full disclosure, I'm the president, but in no way does my comments reflect the feelings of the board. I'm here to say, and again, I'm a faculty member. I obviously know Karen and the rest of the staff very well. I will say that I have never, I know, Gail, I'm surprised that there was actually activities going on at midnight there. I've never heard them. The campus is very quiet at night. There is an activity that goes on, I think, toward the end of the school year, and the neighbors always get noticed that, you know, there's going to be music and so forth, and you do hear that. But outside of that, I really haven't heard anything. I will say as well, I welcome the fact that we're moving towards a residential campus, because it's my belief it will have an economic impact that I think is very positive, as Mr. Poole disclosed. But I actually think that will result in reduction of traffic, which I think is a positive thing. I'd rather see students walking or taking a shuttle to the campus rather than driving their cars. And I will say that's improved as well with the increased shuttle activity. So I want to keep my remarks brief, but just indicate my wholehearted support for both Abington as well as this residence. Thanks very much for the opportunity to speak tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any other comments? Name and address, please.
I have to lower it a little bit. Excuse me. Ethel O'Day. That's ETHEL, O''DEA. And I'm actually here on Lindsay Lane, 1165 Lindsay Lane. And so I have several hats as I stand here, and I'll try to be brief, even though some people know it's hard for me. So I work at Penn State Abington. I live in Abington Township. I'm a Penn Stater. I went to Ogons when it was Ogons. So I've been there many years in my life, and I've worked with Dr. Sandler for many years. I actually started in '96, and I have to say, of all people, she is absolutely the best neighbor that could be existing. She's so considerate and thoughtful and respectful of our neighbors, as is Chuck and Terry and Gail. It's amazing how much we go out of our way to work with the neighbors near our school. And so I just want to quickly say that I work in career development, so I'm the one that gave some of the numbers to Karen that she could present. And we do so many internships in Abington. Abington Township has our interns, Abington Police Department, Abington Arts Center, so we have had a big impact. I counted at least 100 over the last year alone. And so internships do lead to jobs, and jobs eventually, hopefully, will keep some of the students here. And I love all the numbers that Mr. Poole gave. I love all the buffers you talked about. But I just want to know that personal stories really make a difference. And we have a fabulous student that's actually been featured by Chuck's department. And he is from New York, so he was living in the apartments nearby. He was a fabulous student, business student. He met Faulkner at one of my career fairs, who they supported them a lot. They're always there. And they offered him an internship. They loved him. They offered him a job. He's now working at Faulkner. He's staying. He's in Abington. Those kind of stories happen all the time. Our students have been very successful. If a company takes a student, they always ask me for more. So I work mostly with the students. Our whole department does. So we have part-time employees, too. When Chick-fil-A or Lee's Hoagies or anybody, I'm the first person they call to say we have a part-time job. So, and staff and faculty have been hired from the neighborhood. We have people that work for Abington that have looked for homes here. Where should I look? They ask me, Who's the realtor that I want to recommend? So it's really a win-win. And just personally, as a person who knows that dorm life is great and it's a great experience, we also like to work with freshmen. So some of the programming, I want to just mention to Gail, I have done program in the evening, academic programming, networking with alumni, Penn State alumni, so our students can do that. We'll be able to do more of that, and that's not going till midnight. Maybe the cleanup, but not. So there's more programming that we're considering besides just entertainment or dances. I mean, we're thinking of doing more academic programming because it would actually be easier for me to get alumni back to network with our students in the evening. So, and we love getting freshmen, I have to tell you, because once they are engaged with career development, they really listen. We're like, parents to them, but they really do listen. And just a personal note about dorms. When my nephew in North Carolina was going to go to UNC Charlotte and my sister was fighting with him, why do you have to live at the dorms? Why? He pulled out a couple statements from UNC, and he actually sent them to me as a joke years ago, and I found them. So national research indicates that living on campus contributes to greater overall satisfaction with success in college. The research shows they're more satisfied with their living environments, they're more likely to graduate and to enter graduate school, meet more diverse people, are exposed to a wider range of ideas and cultures, develop greater artistic interests, develop strong interpersonal skills, finish college in less time, have more contact with faculty and other students, and are more likely to have greater self-esteem. So that's the argument my nephew gave my sister about dorm living. So the staff are excited, we're very excited, and we hope that everything goes through and, we have more success with our students. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments from residents?
Pam Vasserman, Vasserman. I just wanted to say one more thing, that my husband, when going to Penn State Abington, did have an internship at the township, and that is why he is working here today, because Matt LaHaza. So that, and I know he wouldn't want to come up here and say that, but
We'd like to hear from him.
yeah.
Is he the
Now
red
you have to
spot
make-
in the back?
Yeah, he's that blue spot, right? Yeah. And also, I did have an intern from Penn State Abington, and she was phenomenal working. She was an intern at St. Basil, so I can attest to that. So just two more things.
Okay, any other comments from residents?
Mr. President,
Sir.
if I may, I have a comment from a resident that I received by letter, or I should say a
Sir.
residential institution. If this is the appropriate time, they ask that it be read into the record. This is a letter I received on June 22nd, 2015, from Judy Bavaria, President and CEO of what we know as Rydell Park, but Presby's Inspired Life. And she writes, "Dear Commissioner Sanchez, regrettably, I will be unable to attend the June 24th Commissioners meeting, so I submit to you my letter of support for the Penn State Abington project that will be reviewed during this upcoming meeting. Additionally, I request that my comments be entered into the official records pertaining to this issue." I know I'm going fast. I'll give you a copy of this. Penn State, Abington, and Rydell Park have enjoyed a collaborative relationship over the past several years, and I believe this project is just another way for us to work together for the betterment of the community. When the project was presented, we were pleased that it featured the redevelopment of the Saturn dealership property, and equally as satisfied that the architecture building includes sustainability features and certainly the overall aesthetic enhancement of the site. The future holds bright for the possibility of continued intergenerational programs, as we have already experienced with Penn State Abington and the current residents of Rydell Park. I also believe the Penn State Abington project, with the array of commercial and residential uses permitted in the PB zoning district, will complement the plans of Rydell Park and Presby's Inspired Life to create a senior residential experience beyond what we have already successfully established on the existing Rydell Park campus. I have appreciated that Penn State Abington has consulted with Rydell Park extensively over time regarding their project and their specific plans. We will continue to work jointly on this endeavor in pursuit of a progressive working relationship. We have always supported the enhancement of Abington as a college town. I believe providing a township location for student residences will serve to enhance the area further, in addition to supporting the attraction to Rydell Park and its many amenities. Commissioner Sanchez, we appreciate all your ongoing support of Rydell Park and your willingness to deliver a message to your colleagues working on behalf of Abington Township. Warm regards, Judy Bavaria, President and CEO of Rydell Park. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other comments from commissioners? Hearing none, I'll close the hearing and call on Commissioner Stephen Klein, Vice President, to make the motion.
Thank you. Thank you, President Luker. I'd like to make a motion to approve ordinance number 2095, an ordinance amending the zoning ordinance of the Township of Abington by providing regulations for student apartment housing in the planned business district, and I so move.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any comments from commissioners or staff? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you very much.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. That concludes our agenda, and that closes our meeting for this evening. Thank you.